It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Manchin put out a statement. Talked about fiscal sanity. Concerned that we're not going to be able to pay Social Security and Medicare, and that's why we can't do anything else, evidently. He's now concerned about the spending. Still pushing his strategic pause, which I said from the beginning, and for those who said I was crazy months ago, I fear we get nothing. I'm sticking with that. I said it back months ago, and here we are. And I don't even think Manchin's the worst part of it. But here to share some thoughts on, well, will we get something on the infrastructure front? Will we get anything? Will one, the other, both, nothing? That's why I've asked our good friend Matias Vernango to come talk with us. Matias is an economics professor at Bucknell University, one of the smartest guys I know on the economics front. Matias, thanks for taking time for us.
Oh, no, thank you for having me, Rick.
So, we getting anything? Is this going to happen? Or is this going to go down in flames?
Well, I wish it's one of those things, I'm smart enough to tell you I'm not sure. And I wish, I could say it's a simple one that I wish we get something, meaning I wish they compromise and at least we get the smaller package, the bipartisan 1 trillion, spending bill going through. But the thing is, as you said, it was sort of built up in a way that I think honestly, Biden and the administration did have a good strategy. The first time that there was a strategy in place in order to bind these, sort of smaller, acceptable for both sane Republicans and conservative Democrats bill that they could jointly pass, but also tying almost everything else that is part of the Democratic agenda, including Biden. So that, expansion of Medicare, expansion of, rights, things like, not healthcare, childcare, many provisions that, not just infrastructure, social benefits that are necessary for a society that has been on a down spiral for workers for a very long while. And so, and the Democrats have been fighting for a very long while. And they had this strategy which made it very reasonable. So we tie these two things together. So we passed this one that it's bipartisan, and that has to go with this other one that it's for everybody. Whether we're gonna see that or not, and I think again, Biden didn't go to Chicago today. He stayed. He had meetings with both Sinema and Manchin. So clearly the administration is trying to get this, and they have asked a number, and I don't think they got a number from Manchin or Sinema. What would be the number that they would accept? And that's the part that frightens me in all of this. If I had a number, I would say, okay, they're trying to bargain it down. But it seems they're trying to kill it.
Yeah. No, Manchin did say on the one Sunday show that, $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, maybe he came up because the one woman did try and hammer him down on a number. And I'm of the mindset, look, at this point, I'll take the $1.5 trillion just to get us moving and to get things into place.
If he signed and we voted the $1.5 trillion, sure, I would agree with you. But if it's an open sort of end, I'm not sure what I would, if I was one of person in the progressive caucus and you ask me what to do, I'll tell you the truth. I wouldn't know what to tell you because it seems like what they want is to just stay with the small one. And I should say, and there is a lot of money that both Manchin and Sinema have received the biggest numbers of the funds from donors associated to all the sort of wrong corporate interests. So,
well, there was a story the other day.
Not helpful.
Yeah, there was the story the other day where Sinema got $750,000 $750,000 from big pharma, and then voted and basically killed the drug bill that would help lower prices. And this is where you come back to the world that we're in.
All of this is maddening, and again, it's maddening not just because of the politics of it. I should say the other thing that it's and I don't even want to go on how much Republicans have been playing politics with this, because they I mean, we're tying in all of this, the debt ceiling and the shutdown of the government, and they're playing absolutely politics with that. But I should say all of this is unnecessary, because there is no danger that we're overspending, that we are, that the government has no ability to pay, that inflation is around the corner. All of those fears are absolutely not reasonable. And so we are in a situation in which 5 million jobs still have been lost and have not been recovered. The economy is still in a iffy recovery because we're in the middle of a pandemic that, sure, Delta is, thank God, coming down, but, it's still not gone. There are still supply constraints here and there. There are still a lot of people hurting. And so the notion that we are on the verge of an economy that's close to full employment, that inflation is around the corner, there is inflation, but the kind of inflation that we have had is because of the supply constraints, not because we have, healthy economy close to full employment. And also the kind of inflation that I want to see, the inflation that is driven by wages and by people getting, so that wages are winning price, against prices, and that people are getting, because they have more bargaining power, they have the ability to, not corporations getting more money because they can charge you, and so on and so forth, but because people can get higher wages, and corporations are forced to reduce their margins. And that's not happening. It hasn't happened, in our generation. I mean, you have to go back to the 70s when I was a kid to have something like that in the United States. And so the notion that we, and we talked about this last time I was here, or the previous time, this is not that 70s show. We're not in that position yet. And so those fears, it's not just the politics of it that it's maddening. It's the economics of it, the technical stuff. It's not there. So this other part is not a question of what my personal preferences. Sure, I prefer, a broader, sort of more inclusive welfare state. But forget that for a second. There's no reason that, if you wanted to spend, let's say that you were a Republican very concerned with the American position externally, and you think we should spend way more in the military. We have space, actually, to do all of those things. There is no reason why the American government cannot spend. I wouldn't say let's go and spend a lot more in the military and stay in Afghanistan. But, so I think that's a mistake. But it's not like we don't have the resources. So right. If we have the resources to rebuild schools in Afghanistan, as we did over the last 2 decades, we should have the money to, improve the living, conditions of people in the United States.
No, that just makes a little bit of common sense. But here we are in this moment, and as you pointed out, there's some economic problems. There's some things going on. Still in the middle of the pandemic. We've got supply chain shortages. We've got all this stuff going on, and now the Republicans choose to manufacture a crisis by holding us hostage for what I'm still not quite sure what they want, other than scorched earth or chaos. Are you getting anything out of what they actually want for this?
That's it. I will say something. I was bunching today about this, and I've been thinking about this. And if they go crazy, I think we should go crazy too. So because what they're saying is we're not going to pay the debt. Okay, so you're not going to pay the debt. The debt that it's already accrued. So and there's no reason not to pay it because it's that in domestic. I always say this, coming from Argentina, having been raised in Brazil, we sometimes take that in foreign currency, in dollars. And that one, the Brazilian government, the Argentinian government cannot pay in their own currency. So, they have limitations. This is purely debt in domestic currency. The U.S. has no limitation. It doesn't mean that the U.S. can do whatever they want. No, sure, there are limits. But, there's no significant danger, and there shouldn't be any danger of the United States defaulting on its debt. And the reason that they're putting this is exactly to score, political points. So if they're going to, put the American economy on the, brink of collapse because of this, I think because there's nothing that forbids the government to continue spending and fund the debt. And the question then, it's a constitutional question. Is this debt ceiling, for example, constitutional? I'm not, you should invite a lawyer to discuss that stuff. But I've heard many things that suggest that this is unconstitutional, and unconstitutional. And so they should test that limit. What happens?
Yeah, I just think it's stupid. The time to argue over spending is before you spend the money, not after you've spent it. I mean, this is just weird to me. And again, I come back to, I understood the past when Mitch McConnell and the Republicans during the Obama years wanted Obama to fail. They had things they wanted, like sequester. They had to get the sequester. They had to cut because they were obsessed with squeezing the quarter till the eagle screamed. And then we came in with Trump, and it was spent like drunken sailors, and you didn't hear a peep out of them.
Well, but this has been going on for a while. I always tell my students here at Bucknell. So, if you look at historically, since Gerald Ford, we have to go back all the way to Ford. The Republicans have been the party of big government. They spend more when they come in. I mean, Ford increased spending, and the deficits went up. Same for Reagan, same for Trump, for Bush Senior, same for Bush Junior, same for Trump. They deficits go up because they cut taxes for the wealthy. They spend more in the military, and so deficits and spending go up. And in reverse, Democrats have become the party of small government, trying to preserve but not expand. The only expansion that has been since Nixon and an environmental agency, it's been Obamacare. And of the welfare state. I mean, the only expansion of welfare programs, and all three of them, Carter, Clinton, and Obama, with differences. I'm not saying that are all equal, but they all had lower spending at the beginning. I mean, after you take Obama's 2009 package, it's diminishing spending and lower deficits. So the party of fiscal responsibility, and I'm not a huge fan of the term, has been the Democratic Party. And Republicans have been the party of big spending, big government, but it's big government for the very wealthy and the corporations. And that's an important part of this story. So what they're doing is the bidding of corporation, of corporate America and wealthy individuals. So they're guaranteeing that we're not going to tax them. And I think that one of the important things here in this discussion is that Biden has bought, because I think it's the moment of this. Biden has bought into the idea that we have to tax the wealthy, that the wealthy have run amok, that they don't pay their fair share.
Yeah, about time.
That, it's high time that they pay their fair share. And I think that that's the danger in this. That's the debate we're having, and it's a debate important. So it is political. It is as much as it was for Obama, because the 2024 election is already being fought here. I think if we don't pass this stuff, it's going to be very difficult to win. Whoever goes, if he goes for re-election or Kamala or whoever it is, but it's going to be much harder.
No, 2022 is going to be a bloodbath if you don't get something done. Not that 2022 is going to be easy, even if you do. But I've talked to people who've already said
2022 is going to be an uphill. I meant 2024 presidential. I mean, because let's be serious. The American system is such that the likelihood of passing stuff it's this year and some part of next year, but then we're gone, because then we're already in campaign mode, and it will be 2 years of campaign mode.
Yep. So
Obama had basically 2 years of government. The rest was, he got reelected, and then they blocked everything else he did in the second term. So he had 2 years out of 8, and then he resisted. And I wish we had those 8 years. I mean, I'd rather have those 8 years than any the 4 years with Trump. Good Lord, I always say destroying is much easier than constructing stuff, and that's the danger. We have a party that comes into power to destroy stuff,
yep.
And they're very good at destroying stuff. And then we have a party that we're bickering about how to construct stuff, and constructing is admittedly harder than destroying. But we should get our act together and start constructing stuff.
No, I'm right there with you. My grandfather used to say, any idiot can tear down a house. It takes someone with a little skill to build it. And we're seeing this playing out right in front of us. So in looking at what we're going to come up against in the next couple of days, you've got the debt ceiling coming, the possible government shutdown. You got the infrastructure vote that may or may not happen. I guess tomorrow they're talking about it. It's probably not going to. Probably going to push that off a little bit. It seems like McConnell's plan of stall, delay, and draw out to try and run out the clock to get to where you said next year nothing ain't going to get done. That seems to be the plan to me.
Yes, no, I would agree, and again, I think that the play here is for Democrats, and I think Biden is on. I think I would say this surprisingly to me, but I think Biden is not just for show, appearing to be on the side of the progressives on this. I think he has bought into the Democratic program, he's closer to the progressives on this debate. So he's trying to get Sinema and Manchin to agree to something. So I am, less hopeful I was last time, let's put it that way, that we are going to get, I don't think we're going to get the 3.5, but, I'm hopeful that we are going to, I hope we do get the bipartisan one, and obviously then we don't shut down and we don't do anything crazy like defaulting on that, which is unnecessary. But I do hope we do get some sort of expanded social spending, because that's not just necessary for the Democratic Party to win the election in 2024.
No, it's necessary for the country. Ultimately, we need the investment.
It's necessary for the people. It's necessary for everybody. It's necessary for our souls. It's necessary to be able to look in the mirror and say that we're not all losing it. I think that we're at that point. The last 4 years were pretty harsh. Post-Trump, on top of that, a pandemic, things have been very difficult. So I think that the country needs that, and if we don't do it, I think we're on the verge of a social crisis that, we haven't seen in a very long while.
So you have some fear that we could be heading for, if all this goes the wrong way, we could be heading for really, really troubled waters.
Oh yeah, let's be serious. We had a riot with people entering the,
Point taken.
Yes,
there it is. And I don't see that. I don't see that going away anytime soon either.
Yes.
But Matias, I appreciate you taking some time, sharing your expertise. As always, frightful stuff. I'm hoping we get some stuff done.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff. Our good friend Matias Vernango, professor of economics there at Bucknell. Love to hear your thoughts. Are you concerned? Is inflation taking a bite? Have you seen your wages go up? I'd love to hear it. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back. Stick around.
Standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On the Rick Smith Show.